Hello and welcome to your astrological vibrations for Monday, April 8th, 2019 by Gaia Blooming. I'm Mimi. Hello. And our energy mantra for today is I activate aligned action. And today we have the moon finishing up in Taurus and moving into Gemini. And I think this is going to be like a really nice shift. That Taurus moon, along with the other earth energies, definitely had a bit of a wading through pudding feel to it. It was a little bit heavy and muddy this weekend. But with the moon shifting into Gemini, hopefully it's going to activate some energy, some, what's the right word? Frolicking, maybe even spring frolicking. Not to say that this energy is necessarily going to be any easier, but the Gemini energy, especially with Mars in Gemini, it could activate that part in you that actually wants to connect and do things in the world. So that could be very nice. But before we have that, we have the moon, like I said, finishing up in Taurus. And the last connection it's making is with Pluto. So Pluto's been making all these connections, doing the Plutonic colonic thing as it worked together with the South Node last week. And the South Node isn't too far away from that Pluto energy. The South Node is hanging out at 22 degrees, approaching Saturn at 20 degrees. So the South Node is still helping us unwind patterns. But hopefully last week we faced patterns where we have given away our power. And that's kind of what I want to focus on in this astro. What I'm doing today is actually looking a bit ahead at what's coming. So on the 10th, on Wednesday, we have Jupiter going retrograde. Now, if you've been watching me for a long time, or even just the last couple weeks, I've said Jupiter retrograde is my least favorite retrograde. And that has been true. But one of the downloads that I've gotten about it is that, you know, Sagittarius, among other things, is the sign that represents belief systems. And so I have this belief system that because I am a Sagittarius, when my ruling planet goes retrograde, I kind of go dormant. And it's time to shift that belief system. And that's what I'm kind of feeling as we approach this retrograde. When we go through pattern shifts, like we did last week with this South Node Pluto energies, often we then have to make some internal shifts around our thinking, around our beliefs. So as Jupiter prepares to go retrograde in just a few days, this is a good time to inspect your beliefs. This is a really good time to release the feeling that you know and instead surrender to, well, I don't know, but I'm going to do my best, you know? So notice, especially around your patterns or any pattern situations that have come up, what are your beliefs? What are your thinking processes? And how can you shift that? One of the things, too, is Jupiter is the planet of benefit, of luck, of really good things in our lives. And the good things don't go away with this retrograde. Absolutely not. One of the things I feel like we could put in place and should put in place and will put in place, even in this scope, is a gratitude process. One of the things I've told my clients about Jupiter retrograde is I've been saying with Jupiter in Sagittarius, reach for the light. You know, this year is going to continue to have heaviness, and we have to keep reaching for the light in order to keep ourselves going, because sometimes the heaviness can feel like, what are we doing here? What's this process? So you want to keep reaching for the light. With Jupiter retrograde, sometimes we have to reach for that light within and seize that strength in order to keep going. But part of that process is the gratitude process. So one of the things I thought about doing in light of Jupiter going retrograde is at the end of the scope, just ask us all to take a second and notice something right now that you're grateful for. And it's not that you have to share it with anybody, but when we notice those things, this is how we change patterns. This is how we shift our thinking, and this is how we reach for the light. So that's one of the things that we want to be aware of, because it really is working with these patterns that we are still continuously working on changing. And we are going to be doing more work with this as Saturn and the South Node come together, and Saturn also goes retrograde. So there's a lot of opportunity for these shifts in patternings, a lot of opportunity to break even more into soul self, but here is your awareness for that. Another thing to be aware of in this astro is that we have Chiron conjunct Vesta. So we have Chiron in Aries, and Chiron in Aries, we're working on healing the self, so we can access and activate that soul self. Now, chances are we all have some degree of soul self working for us, but to different degrees, we have suppressed a lot of it in order to work with and or fit into society. So with Vesta there, working with the Chiron energy, your Vesta, your inner light, your inner priestess energy, your inner divine light is highly activated, and it's working on healing you. But you also need to work on accepting that light. And one of the things you can do, just in light of this whole scope, is I'm grateful for my light, because it is that light that does help you keep going in times of crazy. All right, so back to Astro for today. Moon shifting into Gemini. So that lunar shift will be at 2:15 p.m. Pacific time. Before that, we're going to have a case of the void moons. So your activity energy may not kick in until that lunar shift, where it's like, oh, yeah, I've kind of been hibernating and hermiting, and I'm ready to get out and connect, and oh my gosh, I need to call this friend, and I have so much to say. Oh my goodness, I've processed all these things. That point may happen a little bit after that lunar shift, but before then you may feel a little slug. And if you are feeling the slug with the void Taurus moon, take it easy, because we are processing so much. And I know the Taurus energy likes to focus on producing and production, but maybe it's building you for what you will produce and product. Wow. What you will product, sure. Once you have that energy, all transformation needs time of deep rest in order to implement the shifts. So take that energy that you need. And it's interesting. So I do have in the cards the laziness and the turning in cards. Oh, catching the light. And they're in reverse. So I do feel like we are activating. We want to connect outside. But give yourself the time to process through this so you can get to that place where you are ready to connect. The other cards that I have really go with this Jupiter thing that I was talking about. I have the Innocence card, our Divine Light, and the card of possibilities. And that card of possibilities is about shifting our beliefs, that maybe there are things that we don't yet know, energies and beliefs outside of the beliefs that we already carry that could really serve us. And so it's about taking that higher level, like that eagle energy, in order to, I don't know, see from a higher perspective, see from a different perspective. It's one of my biggest things being a Sagittarius, is remembering that as much as I do know, there's so much more that I don't know. And to hold space for divine possibility, because the divine is working with us in every moment. And the more we can work with that energy and surrender to it, and allow it, the more miracles and beautiful synchronicities happen in our life. So I'm going to end this here. So you can always book a reading with me. Email me, mimiclark@gmail.com. Come join my Patreon page for all my extras. Besides that, what are you grateful for? Just take a second right now. Notice something that you're grateful for. And then remember, the better it gets, the better it gets. There is more than enough love in the world for you, and you do have the power. Namaste.